All right, Robert Chambers from AnyKeyMusic.com, teaching you how to master the art of playing the piano by ear. And I will be one step closer once you understand all the principles of the Any Key music system. Hope you guys are good. Hopefully you can see me. Hopefully you can hear me. We're going to be going through a wonderful webinar today. And I just did a little improvised version of a particular song. It wasn't obviously as it was written. I'm not even sure what I did. So when I watch it again, I'll know exactly what we covered. All right. So before we get right into it fully, once again, PK, okay, you said audio and video are good. Okay, good. So as long as video and audio is good, we are ready to actually go forward. So I just want to welcome you all to this wonderful webinar, right? We're going to have a combination today. I made it open, open to actually guests to join us today as well. So we have our regular members and those that have the Any Key music system, and there's those that actually don't have the Any Key music system. So they get a taste on how the system works, or how the live interaction, or how I teach live, and the members that actually know the Any Key music principles, they're able to answer because they are being taught, not given answers, but being taught by understanding how music works. So today we're going to be talking about a webinar that I titled The Minor Key Hoax. Now, actually, I should say it properly. It would be the Minor Key Hoax. So I have to ask it like, is this question? So hopefully by the time we're done today, you'll be able to answer that question. I'll give you my personal opinion, or in terms of what my answer is going to be. Now, you don't have to believe anything I say. However, by the end of this webinar, I'll be asking you that question. Is the minor key as we know it, or if you actually are intermediate to an advanced prior to coming here, right? Do you believe it's a hoax? You don't have to answer that now, but I will ask you at the end of this webinar. So here's what before we get into the minor keys, let me ask you this question. And those of you that haven't gone through one of my teaching or the live teaching, I ask a lot of questions. And the reason why I ask a lot of questions is because that lets me know what you understand and what you don't understand. Okay, so let me ask you, what are the chords that go with the major scales? All right, so this is where I'm gonna need, obviously, the Any Key Music members. You guys are very, you guys are participate. So what do I mean? I'm talking about like the scale. Now, once again, I'm gonna be speaking at an intermediate to an advanced level, right? So we should know what's on the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, and the 7. So I want you to tell me, what are the chords that go with the major scale? So we know the C major scale has the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, but I want to know what are the chords that go with each of those numbers, okay? So while you're typing that, and once again, if you are typing right now, then yep, go ahead and type. Okay, while I get my arrows, I can actually stall. So once again, what you're answering for me is what are the notes, all right, or what are the chords that go with the regular numbers? So if we're in the key of C, right, we know that we have the 1, the 2, the 3. Okay, so go ahead and type it. The chords that go with the regular numbers of the major scales. Okay, so once again, type that. Okay. So obviously in the key of C, well, we go from C to C, but it's really the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I want to know what's the chord that goes on the 1, what's the chord that goes on the 2, what's the chord that goes on the 3, what's the chord that goes on the 4. Not necessarily what's in it, right? In terms of, so for example, I don't want to know what's in the chord. I want to know what type of chord goes on each number, okay? So once again, you guys should be typing that, and I'll check it in a quick second as I get a couple more arrows, and then we'll move forward from that, okay? So that's going to be the basis of everything that we talk about today. So let me get my arrows here. All right, I see some answers coming in. So once again, if you're just joining us, I'm asking the question, what are the chords? So this is the question that I'm asking. I'm asking, what are the chords that go with the major scale? So basically, what chord is on the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, 6, and 7? So if you answered all of them, or if you answered part, try answer all of them, okay? We want to make sure you challenge yourself, okay? Once again, this is not a presentation where it's just entertainment. These are lessons that you get results. So that's why I ask you so many questions, so that we make sure you understand, all right? I like some of the answers that I'm seeing. All right, keep on typing as I get one more color, and then we'll get right into it. So once again, the question is, what are the chords? Okay, now, all right, so here we go. Now, just so you know how to form them, just in case, okay, I like what we see there, right? Those are the numbers, right? And what are the chords? So we're almost there. All right, so how you get the chords, right? You can do very simple. You can start at the 1, right? Right, the C, count 2 notes up, you get a note, which is E, 2 more notes up, you get a G. So C, E, and G, when you put those together, that gives you a type of chord. Now you can do that for each of the numbers. So if you start at D, count 2 notes up, you get F, 2 more notes up, you get A. So that will give you the type of the chord, okay? So I'm just about to answer another 30 seconds, and we are gonna be going at full pace, okay? So let's do this, and I got all the arrows that I need. Okay, great. Let me get this over here. Okay, so Andrew, 1 is major, 2 is minor, 3 is minor, 4 is major, 5 is dominant, 6 is minor, 7, 6 is minor, 7 is minor, 7 is minor, 7 flat 5, thank you. So Andrew, okay, so Tewu, major is 1, 4, and 5, minors 2, 3, and 6, and Tewu, 7 is diminished. Okay, PK says, all right, don't worry, it'll make sense as you go more in the system. Jim, 1, 3, 5, 4, 6, all right, the 5, 7, 2. Okay, all right, so I think you guys, okay, so thank you for doing some typing. All right, so the answer that you would have come up with, and once again, if you're a total beginner joining us tonight, just know that you don't want to necessarily memorize the chords on each number. You want to know how you got them, okay? There's a difference between memory and understanding. Always go to understanding, but because I'm speaking at this level for what this example or this webinar is on, that's why I'm not necessarily going into the detail on how to form those chords, okay? So even though we're gonna lay it out, so you guys have it, right? Very good. For the 1, we know it's major. For the 2 is minor. For the 3 is minor. For the 4 is major. The 5 is major. The 6 is minor. And the 7 I put as a diminished or a minor flat 5. I would prefer to put minor flat 5 as Andrew pointed out there, all right? Just because I like to write it, because it's very specific, but it's also a diminished triad, and that's important, okay? So those are the chords that we know that goes on the major key. Can you say exhibit A? So that is my exhibit A, okay? So let's move on forward. So what is a hoax? I titled this the minor key hoax. Well, I know it's kind of extreme, but Merriam Dictionary puts it as a transitive verb where it's to trick into believing or accepting as genuine something false and often preposterous. Wow, I know it's pretty hard hitting, right? They also have a noun for hoax, which it says it's an act intended to trick or to dupe, okay? Or like an imposture. So for example, there's a victim of a cruel hoax, right? Usually there's victims of hoaxes, right? There's also another noun in the Merriam Dictionary. It says something accepted or established by fraud or fabrication. For example, believes the Loch Ness Monster is a hoax, okay? So hoax is a pretty strong word. So I know that would get a lot of attention, but I gotta be forthright, okay? So my question now is, do you believe that minor keys are a legitimate musical concept? Now notice I didn't say legitimate musical theory, okay? I said a legitimate musical concept. Okay, so should I see, what do you see? Do you believe minor keys are a legitimate musical concept? Yes or no? Do you guys want to put yourself out there, or you don't want to put it out there? Okay, we'll leave it. Okay, well actually no, I think there's going to have some people that type. Okay, so Jim says, do you believe minor keys are a legitimate musical concept? Right, Jim says yes. Andrew says yes. Leotis says yes. Tewu says nope. All right, any other takers that wants to say? Okay, all right, so I'm going to move ahead, right? So I want you to think about that as well. So minor keys, legitimate concept. So here we go. The truth is, theories. Now, like I said, and sorry, who's that? Loney says yes, that minor keys are a legitimate musical concept. So notice I didn't say theory. And why do I say that? All right, and Marvin says yes. Okay, well, here's the deal. The truth is, theories need to graduate to facts, okay? Theories need to graduate to facts because you come up with theory. There's a theory about a Loch Ness monster, right? That's a theory. It needs to go to facts and prove that it actually exists, okay? So they need to graduate from theories to facts. So here's the deal. What is a minor key, okay? All right. Joey says agreed. All right. What is a minor key? See, a key, a lot of times people talk about it's a key that sounds minor, or a song that sounds minor. So they talk about the tonality of the song. The song sounds minor. So when I started with one of these, right, some of those songs, those classical songs, they'd say it's written in, that one particularly, they'll say it's written in C sharp major, C sharp minor, sorry. They'd say that's a C sharp minor, right? Then they have, they'll say that's A minor at the beginning, same thing, A minor for this one, right? So a lot of times they'll say that for minor keys. They'll also say that usually when the first or the last chord is a minor, or the predominant sound is minor, or that you hear is minor, then that's also a minor key. So it sounds sad. So that's the thought that's out there. Now, if there's anybody else that has another thought on what a minor key is, you feel free to type it in the chat box. But here's the deal. How many minor keys are there? So for those that believe that a minor key is a legitimate musical concept, then how many minor keys do you have? Okay. All right. So Jim says 12. Andrew says 12. There are 12 minor keys. Okay. I have heard that there are more. Like when you consider keys like E sharps and stuff like that, which I cringe when I hear stuff like that. But for the most part, a lot of people think that there are 12 minor keys out there. Okay, so that's fair. So the types of minor keys that you may hear, and this is why some people think there are a little bit more, is because the thought of a minor key, right? First of all, there's the natural minor, right? If you know modes, that's also referred to as the Aeolian, okay? Right, and which I'll come into detail when I explain a little bit more of that as we go along, right? But then there are also types of minor keys. So a minor, that would be the natural minor, they would call it, as well as an Aeolian, right? And that would be, okay, so let's put it like this. Let's go over here. Okay, so what they would say, let's say if we did the A minor, okay, and I think my slides are giving something away. So this would be an A minor. Yeah, I guess you guys see the green that's there. I don't have to get so particular that it has to be perfectly lined up. Sorry. Okay, so yes, so that would be an A minor natural minor, okay, in terms of the natural minor. Now then they'll say if you raise the fifth in this scale, they'll call that now, they will call that now the harmonic minor, right? And then they have a scale that's a minor scale, or well, sometimes they tread lightly with calling a harmonic minor a key, but yet they kind of group this all together as with the natural minors as if it was a key. All right, so for example, then they'll say if you now raise the, well, they wouldn't call it the fourth, they would call it the sixth, keep the regular six like this, they would say that this is a melodic minor. Now in classical theory, remember I said classical theory, not with what I teach here, right? Classical theory would say that you would use that as a melodic minor going up, and then when you come down, you would switch back to the natural minor. I think that's a misunderstanding on how the language of music works, but people have been using it. However, in jazz theory says the melodic minor is the same going up as well as the same going down. And I would agree that scales should be the same going up as they are coming down, because there's no other scales in the world that go up one way and come down a different way, right? Only in the melodic minor in terms of classical theory, which I believe that should not happen. Okay, so that's the essence of those three scales. Now, those three scales in natural minor, a lot of times, like I said, they'll put the harmonic and melodic minor together as if that was a key. But let's go a little bit further. The natural minor, like I said, they'll call it the Aeolian. We know that, let's say, they would actually label it this way. All right, so I'm just going through the traditional thought, and then I'm going to bring it to what I believe. Okay, so then we have the small I, which represents like minors, or the small I for number one. Number two I would be the two. Well, obviously, so it'd be two. Then it would have the three and the four and the five and the six and then the flat and then the seven. However, how they really understand it is this way. So the natural minor scale is usually constructed with a one as a minor, right? The one as a minor, the two as a diminished, the flat three as a major, the four as a minor, the five as a minor, then the flat six as a major, and then the flat seven as a major. All right, so basically it would look like this. Okay, so if we had, like, it has to be a 1, 2, and a flat 3. So let's go back to our piano. So basically they said it has to be a 1, a 2, and then a flat 3. Then it has to have a 4. Then it has a 5, right? And then it has to have a flat 6. Then a flat 7, right? And then back to the 1. Okay, so that's the thought of a natural minor. So therefore, the chords would be the 1 minor, then the 2 diminished, then the flat 3 as a major, which is the E flat major. Then they have the 4 minor as an F minor, then the 5 minor as a G minor, then the 6, which happens to be a flat 6, right? It's supposed to be a flat 6, as you can see here. It'd be the flat 6, which is the A flat, right, as a major, and then the B flat also as a major. So that's the traditional thought between the minor. So basically, when we sum it up, it would be, they would use a term on the 1 is the tonic, okay? The 2 is the supertonic, which would be, in this case, it's a diminished. In this case, the 3 is a flat 3, and it has to be, it's a major, but it's a mediant. Then the 4 minor has to be a subdominant, and then the 5 minor has to be a dominant, and then the flat 6 has to be a major, then which is a submediant, and then the flat 7 is a subtonic. Now they're going to use another term called leading tone, but they do that a little bit later. Okay, all right. So I'm just giving you just the premise of the understanding of. I'm not going to go too much into what they believe, just stating what they call as facts. Okay, they. All right. So the natural minor, if you sum it up, basically they're saying the 1, the 4, and the 5 are minor. Okay, so now you have to know the 1 is minor, the 4 is minor, then the 5 is minor. Then they say the 3, which is a flat 3, right, has to be major. Then they say the 6, which is really a flat 6, has to be major, then they say the 7, which is really a flat 7, has to be a major. So you have to remember that when you do minor chords, right, the 3 has to mean that it has to be a flat 3, and then you have to remember that 6 and 7 are also supposed to be flat and they're supposed to be major, and then the diminished is a 2. Okay, so that's the thought of the natural minor. Now let's look at the natural major scale, and I say natural because that's the original. Okay, so let's take a look at it. Okay, you guys ready to take a look at it? Let's look at it. So if we have the natural major, we know that it simply goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? That's the natural major. Okay, so here's the deal. When we actually are, and obviously you guys said it before in terms of what chords, that's why I asked you at the beginning. You told me that the 1 is major, so if you're in the key of C, 1 is major is C, right? The 2 is a minor, the 3 is minor, the 4 is major, the 5 is major, the 6 is minor, and then the 7 is actually a type of diminished, okay? And then once again, as a natural minor, so let me go over here, okay? So now this was as a natural minor, this was also a tonic and all of those things. But as a natural major, let me just put it back here. Okay, as a natural major, they would also, so the chords that go in each of these numbers, they will also label it as a tonic, a supertonic, a mediant, a subdominant, a dominant, which is a 5, and a 6 is submedian. Then a 7 is now diminished, and it's also the leading tone. All right, so there's different types of tonics that you have to actually memorize or get used to the sound of. Okay, so when we put it on the actual numbers, we'd have the C major, D minor, E minor, the F major, G major, then the A minor, then the B diminished, right? So basically now, so the natural majors, in the natural major key, you know that the 1, 4, and 5 are major, the 2, 3, and 6 are minor, and then the 7 is a type of diminished, okay? So that's just the natural major, and I like that. Okay, but let's talk about the melodic minor, and all this I'm just developing so that we can understand and see certain things. So if you have the melodic minor, for those of you that know it, right, the melodic minor would be like this. Okay, so melodic minor, it would look like this. They would say it has the flat 3, and then that's the difference between that and a major scale. So if you did the C melodic minor, that would be all the notes. Now the chords that go with it, how they would get it is they would start at 1 note in that scale, count 2 notes up, you get E flat, 2 more notes up in there, you'd get a G. So then the first chord will be minor. Then you do the same thing for the next note. You start at D, count 2 notes up, you get F, 2 more notes up, you get an A. Let me just show you guys, seeing that I'm here, right, as a shortcut. All right, so basically in that scale, right, that would be the first chord. 1 is minor, okay? So for the 2 in that scale, right, you'd be here. Actually, let me just leave this on here. I'll just use a different color and then move that around. I think that would be better so that you see the notes that are being used. Okay, so for the second chord, what they would do, right, or this is how it's formed, not necessarily what they would do, but this is how it's formed, right? You have your D, 2 notes up in that scale, which is the F, right? And 2 more notes up in that, you get an A. So as you can see, it's a minor. So when you go to the 3 now, then they start from here, right? 2 notes up in that scale, which will bring you now to a G. 2 notes up from there, it would bring you to a B. So now you have your E flat, your G, and your B, which is an augmented chord. So by the time that we're done with all of that, we would have gotten that the chords would be as follows, okay? So now the new one in this, now as a melodic minor key or whatever it is, right? The tonic now is a 1 minor. The supertonic now has changed from, well, it hasn't changed from the regular major chord, but the 2 is now minor. Then the 3, it has to be flat 3. It says flat aug. It's supposed to be a flat 3, but it's an augmented, so that's a typo. That's now the mediant. And then the 4 is major, and that's the subdominant. The 5 is major as a dominant, and the 6, right, is now submedian, and it's supposed to be, and it's minor. And then a 7 is a diminished, which is now the leading tone, and they call it leading tone because it's semitone away from where we're going. All right. So once again, you don't necessarily have to write notes on this. I'm just establishing a case here. Okay. All right. So that's the understanding of the melodic minor. So when you're done with the melodic minor, now it's going to have the 1 as a minor, right? The 2 as also a minor, and the 6 is going to be a minor. By the time we go through all of those notes to figure out what goes on each one of those degrees or scale degrees of the melodic minor, then the flat 3 is augmented, major is 4 and 5, and the diminished is a 6 and a 7, okay, in that case. So now your ears have to get used to new tonics, supertonics, medians, subdominant, because it's like a different key. Then we go now to the third one. We have the harmonic minor, right? Now, I'm not sure. Okay, hopefully you guys are following. If not, that is okay. I'm going to explain some things to make it a little bit easier for you. Then they have the harmonic minor, okay? The harmonic minor now is slightly different. So you do the same principle, right? But the scale, let me move these red guys out of the way. The scale now, right, is slightly different from the melodic minor, which is this is over here. So you have your flat 6, right? So you have now, right? That's now your harmonic minor. So to get the type of chords that go on each one of those degrees, you'd start at the C once again, it'd be the same thing, right? So let's say if you started here, right, count 2 notes up, you get here, you get that, right? You get, right? So the 1 is a minor. So once again, they're establishing that the 1 is minor and so forth, okay? So when you go to the 2, in this case, the 2 is D, 2 notes up in there, right? You get your F, 2 more notes up in there, you get your, instead of a minor like the last one, this one now is a D as a diminish, right? Then it has, all right, so by the time we go through all of that, okay, by the time we go through all of that, we would have gotten this. We'd have gotten that the 1 is a minor, the 2 is a, which is a tonic, the 2 is a diminished, and that's a supertonic, and then the flat 3 is an augmented, and that's a median. Then the 4 is minor, and that's subdominant. Then the 5 is major, which is a dominant. Then the 6, which is going to be major, which is a flat 6. So you have to remember that now it's a flat 6 major, and then the 7 is a lead-in tone, right? So which is a diminished. So that's what you would get. So when it all sums up, you'd have your minor as a 1 and a 4 on minor. Your flat 3, which is the third in this case, is an augmented. Then your 5 and 6, which you're supposed to remember that it's a regular 5, and then the flat 6 that you have to remember are major. And then you got to remember the 2, right, and the 7 are also diminished. I put the O because there's a symbol that they use for this, all right, that they use as the diminished in that case, okay? So that's how that works. But the problem I have with this is it's unnecessary. All of that is unnecessary. And obviously, I'm going to explain why I believe that and prove it as I go through, okay? So this is why this is unnecessary. All right, because my slide is frozen. That's why it's unnecessary. Okay, let's see here. Okay, there we go. This is why it's unnecessary. This creates a play-by-ear nightmare. A play-by-ear nightmare. I'm like, when I found out this is what they were teaching, I'm like, no wonder people struggle at playing by ear. How long is that going to take to develop your ear if you have to figure out, okay, well, the tonic in this situation sounds like this, the tonic in this situation sounds like this, the submediate sounds like here, the dominant sounds like this here. That's why I'm like, that's a nightmare. If I have to think about all of that, you better be gifted to be able to do all of that. If you have to think that way, okay? That is a lot of work. So the question is, to me, is a minor key a hoax? Well, here's the deal. What's a definition of a minor key? Well, here's one definition. It's something that's accepted. So here's the deal. That theory, right, was an accepted theory, or it's established by fraud or fabrication. Now, I don't know the origin of it fully. However, and I wouldn't go as far as to say they're a fraud, but I do believe it's more of a Loch Ness monster type of teaching, meaning somebody passed it on to somebody, which has been passed on, but it's been accepted. So the theory, which hasn't graduated from theory to facts yet, have stayed over these centuries because people didn't really look at like to understand how the language works. Now, all of those great composers like the Bachs and the Beethovens, they know what I'm about to share with you. They know this. That's why they play it at such an easier level. Okay, so is it a hoax? My answer would be yes, it is a hoax. If you're going to hold on to the minor key thought that there are minor keys, you're going to have a hard time playing advanced piano by ear, right? So let's fix this by establishing some musical facts. Now, if you want to take notes, you can take notes here. Here's a musical fact for you, according to the NEQ music system or according to Robert. It's simply this. There are only 12 keys and they are only major. I'll say that again so that it can sink in. So even if you don't believe me, just try follow with what I'm saying. I say that there are only 12 keys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so let me put it like this. Okay, not that. Okay, I'll leave those on there. But as you can see, there's 7 white ones, right? 7, 6, 7, and then 5 black ones. All right, so some people say, well, Robert, you have to talk about string instruments, horn instruments, and all of inharmonic equivalents and all of those things. Well, I have another teaching on inharmonic equivalents. But let's say I was right that there are only 12 keys, looks just like what I just showed you on the piano right now. But let's assume that all of those 12 keys were only major keys. So let's just assume, or let's go with me that I'm saying that there are only 12 keys. There are no such thing as a minor key. That's a hoax, all right? So let's say that was the case. So let's look over here, okay? So now remember with the minor key thought, we can have a C minor, then a D diminished, right? Then an E flat major, which is a flat 3, and then an F minor, which is a 4 minor, then a 5, which is a 5 minor, in this case as a natural minor, then the 6, which is, you have to remember that it's a flat 6 major, and then the 7, which you have to remember it's a flat 7 major, because we're dealing with the minor major. I'm like, oh, that's why it's making it complex. So let's look at it for the sake that it is. Let's say we were in the key of E flat, okay? And as you can see, in the key of E flat, what is the 1 in the key of E flat? Well, let's take a look at it. Let's go over to the piano. All right, I kind of jumped ahead on my slide there. But if we were in the key of E flat would be 1. F would be 2, right? G would be 3, right? For those of you that know the scale. A flat would be 4, right? B flat would be 5. C would be what? It would be 6. 7 would be D. And then it goes back to the 1. So in red, that's the E flat major scale. Okay? So if you can look closely, now this is, let me put it as a natural minor, right? So I take the B and I put it there. If you look closely, what do you see? You can see that the red is in sync with what you have here. All right, so the F, where did I miss? How did I miss the F? Oh, it was covering it. Okay, all right. So as you can see, if you look closely, so the C and the D, you can see that it's down here. So you can see that it's actually synced. So what am I trying to say here, right? So if you see that the 1 is major, and in a lot of times they would use the big Roman numeral to represent a major chord. As you can see in this case, the 3, which is a flat 3, if it was a minor key, is really just the 1 in the key of E flat, right? The C minor, it says it's a 1 minor, it's really just the relative minor, which is a 6, as a minor of that, okay? Right? You can see the D, which is supposedly the minor, in the minor key, it's supposed to be the 2 diminished, it's automatically the 7 diminished here, right? There's no, you don't have to guess, right? You can see the F minor, it says it's a 4 minor, but really it's just a 2. Right? You can say it's the 5 in the minor key, it's a 5 minor. Well, it's really just a 3, right? So you don't have to memorize that the 5 minor is going to be the 5 is going to be a minor in the minor key, and then the 6, I have to remember that it's a flat 6. You don't have to do that because that's simply just a 3 and a 4 in the key of E flat. And the reason why this, you don't have to remember that the 7 is flat 7, it's just the 5, okay? So all it is, it's the exact same scale, just starting from a different spot, okay? So that's why I say you don't really have to think of a minor key, right? It's just a major key, okay? Now let me tell you why that's significant, all right? A scale is not a key, all right? So once again, we're dealing with the facts. I'm explaining something. A scale is not a key, okay? I said that twice, so I can move on to the next slide. A scale is simply a sequence of notes. When I do this, that's a scale, as you know, and it's a sequence of notes. If I do this, That's a sequence of notes. That is what a scale is. Scales are not keys. Scales are just notes you play one after the other, okay? Right? So we're going to break it down, okay? Hopefully you're following, all right? Now, scales can come from keys, though, or scales do come from keys, right? So what am I saying? I'm saying basically this. These are types. So when you see the natural minor or the melodic minor, right, or the harmonic minor, those are types of minor scales, and they are not minor keys, okay? That's why when they teach that theory, they'll say the natural minor is the key, but when they say melodic minor, they're very careful. They don't say melodic minor is a key. They don't say harmonic minor is a key, but yet they group the natural minor and the melodic minor and the harmonic minor all as if they were keys, but they're not keys. Those are just minor scales, okay? And a scale is just a sequence of notes, all right? So let's go a little bit further, okay? So when we talk about the natural minor, I said a natural minor is simply a minor scale, which is simply a mode of a major scale. So as we did before, let's go here, all right? So if we have the regular major scale, this is obviously in the key of E flat. I want to make it more simpler, which is in the key of C, okay? So we know in the key of C, all the notes are white, okay? Once again, all the notes are white. All right, so let's put it down like here. All right, Errol, you come down. Don't stay up there. Okay, so all the notes, as you can see, are white in the key of C, and we're going to say with all green. Now, if we were to say, so now I said, what did I say? I said simply this. I said a minor scale is simply a mode of the major scale. So what do I mean? A mode is simply the same notes, just starting from a different spot. So if I started from the minor, which is the relative minor of C, we know it's A. So therefore, I mean, a lot of times, I mean, the very key signatures in that training will give it away, because they'll say, okay, what's the key signature for A minor? No sharps, no flats. I'm like, isn't that C? Right? Right? So here's the deal. If a song has a minor chord in it, it's just a song that has a minor chord. It doesn't change the key. It's just recognizing where things are. So let me just put it like this. So as you can see, the A minor is simply, see how they're all white? That's simply the major scale starting from the same spot, okay? So hopefully that's clear. A minor, so if you talk about the natural minor, that's simply just a minor scale, which is simply a mode. Because if we can say a natural minor is a key, then guess what? We should be able to say that if, you don't have to know this detail, but if it goes from B to B, this would be known as a B Locrian scale, the one in red. As you can see, they're also white. So if you can say that A natural minor is a key, then that means you can say that B Locrian is also a key. And we don't say that we're in the key of B Locrian. It's just a mode. So it gives you a different mood. It gives you a different sound, right? Right? That's modes, okay? So that's my exhibit A, okay? So let's move on. So if we talk about the melodic minor, well, a minor scale, which is simply a mode of 3 combined major scales. I don't know if a lot of people knew that, right? Like I said, if we break it down, and that's what we teach how to play in every key, so that you can eventually see that music is not hard. All you have to do is hear the 1 to 7, right? The regular training, they'll say that's the tonic, it's this, it's dominant, it's the submediant, it's the mediant, and all of those things following that whole sequence. If you have to remember, if you have to try to recall the sound of 4 different types of tonics, 4 different types of dominants, that's why you're going to struggle. You're going to be like, how do I apply that? You're going to get overloaded with information. However, if you know that the tonic is always 1, the next one is always a minor, or the dominant is always a 5, right, and so forth. The leading tone is always a 7. Then it's easier to hear and easier to understand. Okay, sorry, I just have to put something here. Something was falling off. Okay, so right, so it'll be easier to understand. So why do I say that? A melodic minor is a minor scale, which is simply a mode of 3 combined major scales. Who needs proof for me to show you that a melodic minor is 3 combined major scales? Okay, who needs proof of that? It's a combination of 3 major scales. Or you just believe me. All right. I would love it if you would just believe what I'm saying, right? But who needs proof? I would like to see an example. All right, Andrew says, okay, Tewu says, example, please. Okay, so a melodic, first of all, we have to look at what a melodic minor is. So I'm going to do a melodic minor. Where can I do it? I'll do it at the top. Okay, yeah, so I'll do it at the top. So let's say a melodic minor, for example, they would say a melodic minor has, let's say in the key of C. Should I do it in the key of C? Or should I do it in another key? Okay, so I'm going to do the melodic minor in the key of G. Okay, so G melodic minor, this is what it will look like. Okay, so should I do it in green? Yeah, I'll do it in green. Okay, so G melodic minor looks like this. All right, so G melodic minor, okay, would look like this. Okay, so give me a second. So the melodic minor, how it's formed, once again, as we said it before, it would look like a 1, which in this case is G. It'd have a 2, then it would have a flat 3, then it would have a 4, then it would have a 5, then it would have a 6, and then they would call it the major 7. I'd say, well, it's just a regular 7, right? Because the term, and when they say 7, they call it a flat 7. I'm saying we got to fix all of that theory. That's what's making music unnecessarily complex. So you have to create all these theories to justify the things that you created and to justify that. It's like the medications out there, but that's another subject. Okay, all right. So that would be known as a melodic minor, a G melodic minor. Okay, so if we have the G melodic minor, as you can see, it's that. Now, if I were to say, we know, okay, let's put it like this. Let's put it down here. 3 major scales. So hold on. So we know in the key of C, right, major, okay, let me ask you guys this. All right, in the C major scale, C major scale in terms of the scale degrees, which chords or which numbers did we say were major? Okay, which chords out of that, which scale degree numbers out of the C major scale did we say is major? Okay. All right, Frank, 145. Thank you. Andrew, 145. Exactly. All right. Thank you very much. Loney, 145. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to make sure I pronounce that. Exactly. So I'm going to do the C major scale. Okay. So the C major scale, as you can see, is all white. Okay. So we can say that. Now, if we look at the difference between C major scale, the C major scale, all right, you can see all the notes here are white. Now if we do the F major scale, I know you guys know all the notes. So the 1, 4, and 5. So let's go to the key of F. F has all white keys except for which key? All right. So the F has all the white keys as a major scale except for which key? Thank you very much. It's all white except for B flat. So if I were to put it in there, right? So the F, it goes from the C, and obviously it goes to the D, right? Then to the E. Whoops. Sorry, this thing got here. All right, let me just put it in here. Okay. Right? So as you can see, those will be the notes for the F major scale, right? If I'm making it up, please correct me, right? So the F, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the E down here. I'm going to put the D down here. And then I'm also going to put, well, I don't need to put the F again, right? Because that's already there. But as you can see, it's the C would be another C here because the C is there. As you can see, all the notes are the same in the C major scale except for the B flat. So what I'm going to do, okay, so I'm going to remove the B here because that was the only difference between the C major scale and the F major scale. All right, so or I'll just leave the B, this thing down here so you know it was here. Okay, and now I'm going to get one more color. We said that 1, 4s, and 5s are major. Okay, so let me just take, gray. Okay, so now in the G major scale, we know that they're all white except for which key? All right, they're all white except for which key? Exactly, except for F sharp. So let's say I put the notes. Can you see that? The gray, can you see it clear? Actually, I'm going to make it black. It's a little bit, it'll make it a little bit clearer. So give me 1 second. Hope you guys see where I'm going with this. Let me do this. Okay. See, the key thing with playing, and I always tell people to play piano by ear, all you are doing is learning how to understand the language of music that you're hearing. Okay. So if we did the G major scale, all right, let me get my arrow again. Where did it disappear to? Okay, here we go. I got my color. All right. So we know that we have the G major scale, right? So we have the G, we have the A, it's all white keys except for the F sharp, B, and we have the C. I'll put it here and then I'll remove it. All right, so we have the C, then we have the D, then we have the E, then we have the F sharp, right? And then obviously it goes back to the G, all right, like that. So therefore, if I go here, so I'll leave the C there. So let me take the D, drop it down here, as you can see there, take the E, drop it down here, right? The F sharp, I'll drop it down here, because the only difference between the C major chord scale and the G major scale is the F. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove I'm going to remove these two because it got replaced by the F sharp that was only different, okay? And then once again, I'll take this G and I'll put it, down here where the C is. Okay, because it's the C there. So as you can see, hopefully it doesn't look too complex. Let me move this away. So the notes that we get, right, and we will remove the B because in the key of F sharp, we know that switched from the C to the B. So if you look here very closely, okay, all right, you can see this, all right? So remember, I said that it's just three major scales combined, okay? And there's a particular reason for it. But right now, as you can see, those are the notes for the C major scale. If you look close, you have the C, D, E. It's not C major scale. You have the Lydian, what's called the Lydian flat 7, right? I like to call it the Lydian flat 7. I like to call it the fourth mode with a flat 7. But in the regular world, they'll call it a Lydian flat 7, meaning it's the 4 with the flat 7, which usually referred to the dominant, usually has a flat 7. Right, if it's a major, okay? So you have the 1, which is C, D, E, then you have the F sharp, right? And then you have the G, A, and then you have the B flat, and then you have the C. Once again, I just combined 3 scales, the scale for the 1, the 4, and the 5. However, I took out the notes that you'd see that would be different from the C major scale, because everything, if you can see C in every key, then you can see these clear. So why do I do that? Because if we look at the notes for the G melodic minor, you can see, I'll take the notes, right? I can take the G, watch this. I can take the G, drop it here. There's a G here, right? I can take the A, drop it here, right? I can take the B flat, drop it here, it's there. Take the C, drop it here right at the beginning. Take the D, right? Drop it there, right? Take the E, right? Drop it there. As you can see, it's on every single one of the notes. F sharp is here, right? Because that's different. And the G, because we did the G again, I can just put it at the bottom of the C because it's C to C in this case. But if it was G to G, it'd just been G all the way here. As you can see, that melodic minor, as we know it, as if the G melodic minor is really a Lydian flat 7 or vice versa, chicken, egg, and all that kind of stuff, depending on how you look at it. I like to look at it as a Lydian flat 7, or I call it the 4th mode with the flat 7, right? But that's all it is. So we make this big thing about this is a new key. This is not necessarily a new key. Those are 3 major scales that are combined into one. There is only major keys. And if you spot this, get good at spotting this, then that's what's going to make music easier to play and to hear. So I hopefully proved how it's 3 major chords or scales put together. So a melodic minor, like I said, it's a combination of major scales, 3. And I just showed you that. It's a scale of a 1, 4, 5 of a major key. That's what a melodic minor. So that melodic minor then is simply just one of the modes of those 3 chords put together. Okay, hopefully that's clear. All right, because I'm going to be moving further. So the harmonic minor, what is that? Well, that is simply a minor scale, which is simply a combination of a minor and a diminished chord. So Robert, how can you say it's a minor and a diminished chord? Okay, because I'm going to teach you something you probably not have heard on how you form chords, so I form scales in just a quick second. Well, I said it's a minor. So if we had C minor, right, we know that these would be the notes, okay? C minor, it's a combination of that, of a C and a minor, and then a full diminished chord, okay? So therefore, if we had the D as a full diminished, we know that the notes would be, okay, I need my red, get a couple more. Sorry, I don't want to do that. I'll use a different color. Let me use green, okay? So green, okay, is there. So we have a C, and then we have a D as a full diminished. Actually, before I do that, let me just do it like this. Does anybody know if a diminished chord for D, what would be the actual notes? You don't have to tell me the numbers. Just tell me the notes for a D diminished as a 4-part chord, full diminished, right? A full diminished chord for D. Can somebody just type out those letters or notes for me, please? Okay. I don't want to do all the work. I want to know that you guys are all doing the work. Right? Right? So Andrew, D, F, all right, G sharp. Okay, I'll just make a long line. And we have, you said B. Okay, so if we were to go from C to C, okay, if you can go from C to C, as you can see here, you have C, D, E, F, G, A flat, B, and then C. So that a harmonic minor, once again, is not a key. It's actually a combination of 2 chords. You have the minor and then the diminished. And what that does, it tells you how to use it. So that's why when we use that chord, when I use this chord, when everybody uses that in their playing, when I hear it in the classical music, it's predictable how it's used. All right, so the D, F, A flat, and not C, Teu, right? Because that would be known, it wouldn't be the C, it would be actually have to be the B, right? In terms of the full diminished, right? Now there is for a chord that goes on the 7th degree, the traditional world would call it a half diminished. I don't like that name. I would call it a minor flat 5, flat 7, right? And that would be the chord. But in this particular case, when I say full diminished, I just meant that they're all separated by 3 semitones. So the full diminished. So thank you definitely for putting it. But this would give us now the notes of our harmonic minor, all right? So if you want to use it, all you have to know is when you want to get to your minor chord, doesn't matter where it is, you just have to play the harmonic minor notes of the scale that you're going to. So if I want to get to my C minor, I would use the C harmonic minor, right? So I don't have to try to think what key, I just have to understand how music works. So that's why when I played at the beginning, when we do this chord, that's like a flat 6, which is, it's like a C diminished, right? I know I can use the C sharp with a D flat harmonic minor to do all of that. Because that's where he's going back. And I'm sure Beethoven knew this stuff as well. All right. So that's how you get a harmonic minor. So why do I say all of that? Basically, there are 4 ways to form chords. Number 1 is just a sequence of semitones and tones. Well, obviously, when we start at basic major scale, we know it's a tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Basic sequence of semitones and tones. That's one of the ways that you form chords. So form scales. I teach master that. If you master that, you're actually mastering 7 out of many scales already. So you don't have to focus on the other things, right? And another way is, there are 4 ways, like I said. Number 2 is that it's a sequence of notes from a major key, AKA a mode, otherwise known as a mode. So that's why I gave the example. Of when you play the minor, that's just the 6th degree or the or a mode of a regular major scale. So that's a second way of how you form your scales, right? Remember, they're not keys. Everything is based upon a major key. If you see things like that as a major key and you can hear it, I'm telling you, you won't struggle with what you're hearing, and you won't struggle with how to apply all of these things in music, okay? So then number 3 is, this is how you form chords, scales as well, by combining chords or combining principles. and you combine them together, and it's always better to have context, not just say that it has the 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, and then a major 7. That's not in context. You need to understand the principle. So for example, we know that, right? So we know that when we play this, right? If you have the C, how they call the harmonic minor, the reason why it works is because it has the diminished. And any key music, the volume 4 members, you know how to use a diminished chord. We know that we use it a semitone below our destination. So that's really the reason why the harmonic minor, as they call it, is going to work. Now, if we go further, right? As like I said, if you take any 2 chords and combine them, they're going to form a particular scale. Now remember, a scale is just a sequence of notes. They are not keys, okay? So number 4 is you can basically make it up by playing random notes and then slap a name on it, which is what some people have done. They just slapped, hey, that's a harmonic minor. That's just this, right? Right? So you can take any random notes and you can call that a scale, technically speaking. I wouldn't necessarily advise that, but you could do that and say that this is the Hoax scale or whatever. You can do that because it's just a sequence of notes. However, it's not a key. Scales are just sequence of notes. Keys are only major. If you see that, you'll be able to spot it in all of the songs, okay? So Frank says, so the run is a C minor and a D diminished. No, so that's now, I mean, you don't have to change the name per se. So when I used over here, so the run here, right? All I did was this. I did the C harmonic minor, right? So because it's a C minor, if I want to, I just did the, let's say if I was trying to get to my minor, right? So we come in any key music, we call it hoots, right? Which is like the circle of 4. So you come from the G, that's going to get back to the C minor. So if you have the G, whether it's dominant, whatever, then I did the C harmonic minor scale, right? Remember, it's not the C harmonic key, it's a C harmonic scale, right? Right? If I want to get to my 2, right? Doesn't that sound classical-ish? That's because that's how they're using it, right? When they would say in classical music, when they would say like it goes up one way and comes down another way, what they're trying to explain is how did those geniuses come up with the arrangements? And the reason why those geniuses came up with the arrangements in terms of it sounded like they were doing this to lead to where they're going. That's the melodic minor, right? And then when they said it sounded like minor going back down, no, it's because they were using it to get to where they got to, which is the C minor. Once they get there, yes, it changed back. Well, it's the key of now the minor, which is just the 6th mode of the major scale. All right. So hopefully, if you have any questions, feel free to type it. All right. So that was, I guess, a little bit of an example. But if you have any questions on this, now would be the time to ask us. We're almost wrapping up, right? So my question again is, do you believe that minor keys are a legitimate musical concept, right? Well, you may say you need more proof. And then that's when I would say, okay, sure, we can pull so many. So Jim Ferguson says, now he says no. All right, let me see if you said no at the beginning, Jim. All right, Jim, you did say yes at the beginning, so now I made you a believer. And I can go into songs on top of songs, right? Right. So for example, and the question is, do you believe minor keys are a legitimate musical concept? Feel free to answer, guys. All right, don't want to put you on the spot, but let's say if I did this very quickly, right? So let's say, okay, Lonnie says, not now. Okay, made you a believer, right? And that's why I say it's a nightmare to think that way. And because when you do look at music that way, you make it unnecessarily hard, because now you're telling yourself, okay, when you just got the tonic of this, now you got to learn a new tonic. You got to learn all those new tonics, right? That's what's making it hard. You're making it harder for yourself unnecessarily, right? Because you didn't think that there was a way. So for example, just very quickly, if I did, and if you have a question, feel free to type it. So let's say if they would say that, let's say, or, okay, let's take that one just very quick, right? So they would have that, they would say it's in A minor, okay? Well, really A minor is the 6th of C, right? So it's all it is starting at the 6th chord of that. So for example, when they have this, so if they had A minor, right? Da 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 da. Then they go to the E minor, and then they put a little thing there, that's type of diminished. All right. So what end up happening, if you look at those chords, if you go A minor, A minor, A minor, A minor, 1, 2, 3, then E minor, right? That's basically what they're playing, right? That's just what I call an accessory, right? 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 When they're doing all of this, I understand the language that I'm hearing. I don't look at that hard. I don't say that this is the 1 minor and then the 5 minor. That's a waste of brain space and a waste of your ear. What I say that in the key of C, that's really the 6. It doesn't change. 6 is always minor, right? And then they have, in the key of C, we know that E is a 3rd. It's always minor. So when I can hear the 1 to 7 in every key, it doesn't sound foreign. It doesn't sound like lost. Why is that important? Because if we look at all the notes in the A minor key, right, or A minor chord, we know that the notes are A, C, and E. Can you see that? Yes, you can. Right, and then the E minor, we know that the notes are E, G, and B. Okay, so let me show you this: E, G, and B. The key thing is what you have to do when you're playing by ear. Once again, is that's why with any key music system, I'm not going to teach you by just telling you the answers, right? Through the system, we're always going to learn how to understand principles, all right? So if we go back here, let's go to the piano here. Don't forget, I'll just move that stuff. Let's go to the A minor chord, okay? So watch this. We're going to go to the A minor chord here, okay? A minor, okay? And then I had the E minor after. So where can I put the E minor? I'll just put it here in green here. Move this guy out of the way. Let's put the right here. That's a very long green thing. All right, so those are the 2 chords. Why is that important? Well, simply this. Those are the 2 chords and they're dancing around. He's just playing one note and this part of the chord. So it's a type of accessory. However, in terms of the notes that they're playing, right, if we were to go through the system, right, I'm going to teach you a principle called approaches. Okay, you see approaches is over here. These are what I got to teach you, okay, in terms of understanding the language that you're hearing. But if I did approaches, right, if I did a 1 number coming from above my A, which is a 6, right, this is how you want to play by ear, by understanding, right? So not necessarily the chord, Andrew. I just want single notes, okay? So you gave me 1 number above my 6, which is a 7. So that is known as a 1 number approach coming from above. My destination is my 6 or my A because A is my note. So 1 number above my A is a B, right? Which we said, which was a 7. Then I got to my A, and what is 1 semitone below my A? Not a chord, I just want a single note, all right? So you guys tell me the single note, right? Exactly. It's G sharp or A flat, and I'm good with either of those. Just do not call it a F sharp double sharp, okay? Okay, so if we had 1 semitone below our A, all right, let's grab an arrow here, then it would be this. So therefore, when I hear them playing this, I don't have to think too hard. So they just went a 1 number, because the chord is an A, C, E, right? They just went 1 number above my A, which is my 1 number above my 6, and then a semitone below my A and got back to the A. So 1 number above the A, which is a 6, and the semitone below my A. That was what you heard. You heard them do an approach, right? And then after they do that to every one of the notes of the chord. So we know that in the, let me move this over here. Okay, so if we know that that's the case, and notice the notes that they're using, right? We know that the next destination, well, not necessarily you know, but if now you can see that it has an A, C, and E, which is a 6, 1, and 3. If I did the same thing if I did the same thing, so basically, what am I saying? So basically, I went one number above my A, so I did this. I went one number above my A, which was my B, then I went to my A, and then I went one semitone below my A, which was, we said A flat or G sharp, right? It can be either or, I'm good with either of those. And then it went back to the A, right? That's what we did, right? We did the B, but then we went to the C, right? Went to the C because that's one of the notes of the chord. Now, what if you did the same type of approach to get to the C? What would those four letters be? Okay, so if you did the same thing, one number above the one, a semitone below the one, and then back to the one. So it's one number above the one to get to the one, and then a semitone below the one to get back to the one. Hopefully I'm making sense, okay? Because this is how the language works. All right, I just want you guys to type that in and I'll be wrapping up, right? So D and then the B, exactly. So now when we do it, okay, I'll use green, one number above my C is my D, right? And then I go to my one because that was my destination. And then I wanted to go one semitone below, which was a B, and back to my C. So therefore, when I play it, and then it goes to the E, right? It goes to the E as well. So that's why, so when I hear this, and the reason why I can play these songs by ear, because I understand the language that I'm hearing, right? It's an approach. Now, and then what would be the notes if you did the same approach on the E? Remember, we're not saying it's in a minor key. We're saying it's in the major key. It's in the key of C, right? So therefore, what would be the one number above the E, which we know is a 3, and a semitone below it? What would be the notes there? You got it. Who's that? All right, thank you, Frank. That's right. It would have the F, then it has the E, right? Then it has a semitone below. I got to grab some arrows from down here. Semitone below it, which is the E flat, and back to the E. So therefore, when Beethoven is playing, he understands principles. And then they do it again, right? They just do the same thing up here to get to the A. So let's say we want to get to the A. He just uses the same type of thing, so which we know is above that, and I grab an arrow from here, down here, right? So therefore, it's the, whoops, sorry. Hopefully this makes sense, okay? So if you can hear it by not confusing yourself with the minor key stuff, that's a hoax. And people, when they see when I talk about that, when I talk about that, I'm like, okay, I'm not insulting you as someone that teaches it. I'm trying to make it clearer for you to see music. And if you see it in one key, that it'll be easier to do it. So now all these notes that are playing, it makes more sense because they apply the principle. And then they end up at the C at the end, right? So that's how that part worked, right? Because if I did the same principle, but instead of a minor chord, I had a major, it'd be like this. So that's why they can switch these different modes, because they just applied a principle to, let's say, if they're making it major or minor. But remember, everything stems from a major key. But you have to be taught how to play in every key. You have to be taught how to hear the numbers, and you have to be taught how to understand the language of music. So what should you do? Well, number one, you should learn how to understand the language of music. I gave you a quick taste of the understanding. Now, how I teach now, if you want to learn how to understand the language, you have to do this. You have, well, thank you. Yes, I guess I can bow. Right? Thank you. But you got to do this. You got to learn the language. And how do you do that? Well, I teach it in any key music system that you got to master all of these 15 principles. You don't do it overnight, but that's why I usually need a couple years or a year to, you'll see results after 30 days, but I would apply all of those things in there. That's what you got to be able to do. Okay. So hopefully you were able to see a little bit more on how minor keys are what? Minor keys can be considered to be a little bit of a hoax. Okay, no fault of their own, but if you learn how to understand the language of music, it'll be a lot easier. Okay, so I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for listening, and thank you for allowing me to share how I look at music. Now we're going to be ending, but if you have a question, you have me live. Now would be a time to actually ask. All right, PK, thanks. Got to go. Well, thanks for joining. PK, Jim, you're welcome. All right. Yeah, so if anybody has a question on what I covered today, now would be a time to ask, okay? All right, so I just gave you one example, obviously, with that song, because it's really a 6. That's why I can go to another key. I can do it easy because it's just, you take a major chord and you apply those principles. There's my diminished. Right? That's how music works. Once you understand the language and you're not confused with all of these minor key stuff, you can see it in the major key, but then you understand principles on how the language works. It makes it a lot easier. All right? Great. A lot to digest. Yes, it is. Right? So Frank says the C minor and the D minor, not clear yet. Okay, so I said the C minor and the C minor and the, let me put it over here. In my example, I said the C minor and the D diminished. But if you want to, okay, there's a whole bunch of notes here. Let me move these out of the way. Okay, if you're asking about a C minor and a D minor as a combined chord, remember I said there's 4 ways to come up with scales, right? Is that if you combine 2 chords, that will give you a particular scale. So for example, oh, you meant D diminished. Okay, so you're not sure about that. So what I'm saying, the reason why I said the C minor and the D diminished, so I'll put it here, okay, C minor and the D diminished. So let me just need to get it all green so it looks clear. Actually, no, I don't need to get it all green. So the C minor, right, and the D full diminished. I'm saying, because I was just basically giving you my exhibit that I believe that how scales also work. You can combine chords. So if you have your D full diminished, so that means not just 3 notes in the chord, right? So we have, right, the D diminished, oops, pulling the wrong arrow. So here we go. D diminished, and separate, the full diminished has all of the notes separated by 3 semitones, right? So if you have your D, 3 semitones F, 3 semitones A flat, whoops, D, F, and then semitones A flat, and then a B, right? That's your diminished. So you can see that it has a diminished in red, right? And then you can see that. Andrew says, thank you, got to go. All right, thanks for joining us, Andrew. Then you have your C minor, right here, right? You have the C minor and the T diminished. Those 2 chords put together, if you now play the notes of those chords, C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B, and C, that is what you know, or they identify as being a harmonic minor. And I was saying a harmonic minor is not a key. Harmonic minor is a combination of 2 chords together, or a principle. So why do I say a principle now? Is because the diminished, even though you're at your C minor, having a diminished, obviously, you know that how to use a diminished. And how do you use a diminished chord, Frank? So you should know how to use a diminished chord in any key music system. You know that. How do we do that? Just type that for me, okay? How to use a diminished. Now notice it may look like a D diminished, but it's really something else, okay? Leads to the destination, exactly. So you would think that the D diminished is going to take us to our E flat, but it's not going to take us to E flat in this case, because of how it is in terms of the notes of the scale is not really in the key of E flat, but they'll say that this is an alteration. But why do I say that? If we know that if we want to get to our C, because this is a C minor chord, right? The diminished that takes us to our C minor is what note? Or if I want to get to my C minor, which diminished would I have to use, Frank? All right? It's exactly, it would be a B diminished. So if I take this B and I put it down here, you can see that the chord, even though I said it was a D diminished, full diminished, you can see that it's actually a B full diminished. So that's how you use it. The diminished is used to get to your destination. So therefore, whenever I want to get to my C minor, the actual act here, I just want to say that it's not a minor key. It's actually a principle on how music works that is combined together, or you can look at it as two combined chords. That's all it is. So that's why this is going to work to get to my C minor, right? The B diminished, and I use a C harmonic minor scale because it's formed in there. So the chords that you use are also signals of the actual scale that can be used. So I just mix those two together. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense, Frank, that it's leading to the destination. You can see it clear. That's how it is. So that's why it forms that scale. If we combine different principles in this, obviously in any music system, you'd see it form different scales as well. But that's how they work, all right? I was just trying to justify the case that there are no minor keys. Those are a combination of chords that are put together or principles, okay? So hopefully that's clear. All right, and I see that there's some typing. You got it? Thanks, perfect. Okay, well, I'm glad you got it. So that's gonna be it for now. Thank you guys once again for joining us and for our guests that joined on. Hope you guys enjoyed it, but this is how we do it in the NEQ music system. We make sure that people understand what they are playing. And once you understand, it'll be easy to play all the songs that you hear. And it will be one step closer, or you would be one step closer to doing that once you understand all the principles of the NEQ music system. All right, so that's going to be it for all the NEQ music members. I'll see you in your next exercise or on the next live webinar. All right, so have a great day and God bless. Bye.